What's going on, everyone? The IPF just put out their agenda for their General Assembly this year. So we're going to go through it in this video so we can see what things affect you. So let's hop over right here to my computer right away and we'll get right into it since there's a lot of things to go over. The first thing, if you want to find the agenda, and I'll put the links for everything down in the description below, but when you go to the IPF website, if you go under Federation here, you'll see a link for General Assembly. If you click on that, then you'll see for each year here, you can kind of go back to all the previous years if you want to see it as well. You'll have the invitation, the agenda, the proposed constitution amendments and bylaw amendments, and after the meeting is done, the meeting minutes as well. So everything is here. So what we're going to go through is the agenda and then the proposals for the constitution and the bylaws. So starting off with the meeting agenda, we're not going to be able to go through everything as it's going to be a lot of pages and a lot of information, and some of the stuff you may not even care about at all. So here you can see the agenda and you can go through it yourself if you want to and go into a specific section if you want to, but I'm going to just highlight maybe some more important sections that you may want to look into or you may want to know about. One is going first over the president's address, just hearing what the new president is saying about the federation and what things maybe are important to the federation or to the president. For example, here, the section talking about having more women involved and how only 1/3 of the executive committee is currently women, and they're trying to kind of make that a higher percentage, obviously, and then also for their commission. So something as far as if you're a female involved in the sport, if you want to maybe get onto a specific commission or even the executive committee one day, maybe something to look into. They also go over how they're trying to improve communication for each of the championships, and then some information about the previous General Assemblies, the previous meetings that they've had. We'll jump down here real quick. As a note is that he threw in a section here about transgender athletes and how the IOC has a new president and they kind of changed their stance when it comes to transgender athletes, and they have a new policy. And so now the IPF is going to work on revising their policy to kind of match the IOC policy. So something there to be mindful of. Under the financial situation shows that there is a loss for the past year, and also going forward, there's going to be some losses. So an important thing that they do recognize that, and they're looking into maybe making some changes to reduce some of their expenses when it comes to travel, when it comes to world championships, those kind of things. We'll continue to jump down here to our next report here for the vice president report. We'll kind of jump through that one as well. One thing here is the approval process for personal equipment is that the new process has started for 2026, and they're going to basically have the process kind of be done by the end of 2026 for the new IPF approved list of equipment and racks and bars and everything like that. So be on the lookout for that. And later on in this video, a little bit lower, we're going to go over the knee sleeve specifically as well. So be sure to stay tuned. We'll jump over to Treasury Report. A lot of times people want to know what's going on when it comes to the money side of the federation. And so here you can see some of the higher costs are due to these different things. Extra legal costs here, anti-doping efforts, extra travel expenses, especially with the World Games once every 4 years. So you get an increase in travel expenses for that specific year. Extra cost here for computer secretary work and lesser income from their partners. Then we can jump down into some of the actual budget stuff. So let's spend a little extra time here going over the balance sheet. So here you can see from January 1st to December 31st of 2025, all the income and all the expenses. For example, here we can see the participation fees, 229,000 coming in, 153,000 going out. We can see things like referee, 17,000, let's call it, coming in, and then referee 6,000 going out. We can see, for example, sponsors. A lot of people are always interested in hearing about that. Sponsors 866,000, and also approval and license fee 585,000. So a lot of money coming in from there. And if we look at other big expenses, we can see anti-doping fees 589,000 coming in from there. And some of the big expenses going out, we can see administration 792,000, travel 156,000. World Games, like I said, it's only a one-off once every 4 years, so 86,000 there. Development of sport 213, development region 152, anti-doping of this 589 that came in, 426 of it went out for anti-doping. So when you see here, when it comes to marketing and being on channels like Eurosport, 742,000. And so that's how they got this negative 220,000. And that's also why they're looking into trying to reduce some of their expenses. For example, this administration, bringing that 792 down, the travel, bringing the 156 down, the 86 from World Games will naturally fall off. And so then that way they can try and get themselves more to being even, or maybe even a slight profit if they want to. Okay, we can jump down and look at their budget and see what they have kind of planned for 2026 and 2027 and how it looks. So we can jump down real quick to the bottom and see for 2026, $129,000 loss. And we can take a look at some of the numbers if you want to. If you're not interested in the budget, obviously you can kind of skip ahead. So we can see, for example, participation fees, looks like it's going to be a profit there. Referee should be a loss there. Then we look at the partners. Here we can see $1 million coming in from sponsors, 600 coming from approval and license fees, and then 10,000 going out. So there should be a lot of profit coming in from partners. And that's one of the things the IPF does mention, is that a large percentage of their revenue and then their profit comes from their partners and from their sponsors and from the approval fees, which can be good and bad. You're getting a lot of money from outside of athletes and coaches and stuff like that, but also you're very reliant or dependent on those partners. And if any of them fall off or anything changes where they don't want to be involved anymore, then you lose a large portion of your revenue. So they have to look for other revenue streams. Okay. As far as administration, you can see it's all expenses, 638,000. You can see, for employees, 250,000, lawyers, 50,000, spotters, 40,000, medals, 50,000. So you can go through all of it if you want to. Then 90,000, you can see again, World Games kind of fell off. It's just championships, meal expenses, all this stuff as 180,000. For the trainer, the IPF coaching course, you can see 100,000 coming in, 100,000 coming out. So they don't make anything off of that. For the basic trainer, they do spend 10,000 because this side is the expenses. So they do spend 10,000 on that. If we look at anti-doping, you can see they have 600,000 coming in, and then 200,000 going towards laboratory analysis, 350,000 going towards the actual testing and administration, 60,000 going towards CAS will be the arbitration of sport in case someone kind of tries to fight the failures, those kind of things. As far as marketing, we can see like 116,000 coming in from Eurosport, but 550,000 going out just to be on Eurosport, 220,000 for TV and internet streaming as well to stream the other world championships on like YouTube. You can see travel monthly expenses there as well. And so that's what's getting them to the minus 129. Quickly going through next year's, we'll look down at the losses and see minus 64. And so it's getting less and less. One thing to note, you can see this asterisk here, which goes over under partners under approval fee and license fee. You can see 870,000 coming in from sponsors, 850,000 coming from approval fee and license fee, is because that the license fee is paid in advance for 2 years. So they're getting some of the revenue up front that's going to be shown in 2027, and then it's obviously going to drop off for the following years. Okay, so they're showing a loss for 2025, 26, and 2027. So obviously that's something I need to work on so they don't continue to lose money as an organization. If we look at the Secretary General report, again, we'll skip through that. Here's where I want to mention the knee sleeve approval. This is talking about how they initially banned those stiff knee sleeves, saying that they weren't neoprene, and then due to complaints, they had a reversal and allowed them. And so now for the future, you can see that the IPF has now created a set of in-depth engineered technical standards on the construction of knee sleeves that will be used in IPF starting 2027. The new technical standards were already sent to manufacturers this month, May 2026, for their review, and they await the response. So they're sending it to them and say, hey, these are the technical standards we're going to use. What do you all think? Should there be any adjustments or any complaints? Are they going to be too difficult to meet the standards? And then they'll kind of finalize it. And then those knee sleeve companies will know if they have to make any adjustments to their knee sleeves going forward, which ones are going to be approved, which ones aren't going to be approved. And then hopefully it'll get down to us athletes to then understand which knee sleeves we may need to buy or which ones we can use. Okay, so there is some movement being done there as well. You can read this as well, just somewhat note as far as the national member federations being independent, as long as the national federations are following the IPF constitution, bylaws, rules, anti-doping rules, then there's no need for outside interference. The national federations can then run the organization how they want. And then if we continue on here you can see if you want to read about it as far as the IOC. So they're working on an IOC questionnaire for every member nation. They've gotten responses from almost 90 nations, but they're still missing about 35 nations. So they're trying to get that done by next month so that they can then have it available for the IOC General Assembly and then they'll have more information as far as the new procedures for IOC application and what they need to do going forward. Also, another thing here to note is that they created a championship event survey questionnaire that will be deployed after each world championship. And I believe it goes to the athletes and the coaches, maybe even the referees as well, to get information about how the championship went, what did they like about it, what they didn't like about it, so you can kind of get that constructive feedback and hopefully make adjustments going forward. So if you are, especially an athlete, but maybe even look into it if you're a nominated coach or referee, that you are getting that questionnaire at some point after the championship and that you actually go and fill it out and provide your feedback. So hopefully, if they see lots of athletes complaining about something, then they can kind of understand that that is an issue and they can go and change it. Okay, let's jump ahead here into the next report. So this is the technical commission and there's not much there, so we'll skip through it. Here's the women's commission if you want to kind of read about that. One important note here is them just mentioning that the weigh-in procedure should be where that the official is the same sex as the person that's being weighed in, because they received a hint that basically male officials were conducting weigh-ins for female athletes in one national federation. So again, depending on what your nation is, hopefully they're following the rules, make sure it's the same sex. And then just some additional stuff here, changes they made as far as rules that you can go look into. And then if you want to look at their statistics, you can kind of come to this section and see how things are changing based on men and women for equipped powerlifting, classic bench press, equipped bench press, all those different groups. Here you can also see it by year in those different groups. Here you can see it again a different way and percentage changes if you want to look at this chart for age divisions, everything like that. So you can go through that. For the athlete commission, there was nothing much there. For the coach commission, I believe there's nothing much there. We'll skip the youth commission as well. You can look at the charts if you want to, as far as seeing the growth in, for example, sub-junior participants and also the growth here in junior participants. So a lot of growth here with our sub-junior and junior athletes. Here under the medical commission, we can see as far as who's applied for TOEs. There was 43 TOEs in 2025, and there were no retroactive TOEs, and that they're getting rid of the on-site doctor due to funding issues. They'll still have someone for first aid, and they'll still have the chiropractic services that they've had, but they're getting rid of that. And also here again, a mention of the transgender policy and saying that there are 4 transgender male approved to compete in the male category since they started this policy in 2022. And there are no transgender females approved to compete in the female category so far. And that's just due to their stringent policies, and also they're going to be making updates to their policy based on that new IOC policy. So it's probably going to make it more stringent as well. Then we can jump over to the Law and Legislation Commission. Not too much here, but you can see if you want to, if you're interested, as far as nations that are going to be joining as provisional members. So we have Bermuda, Ghana, Mali, and Sierra Leone. Then we can see the following provisional federations that are becoming full members: Nigeria, Macau, Portugal, and South Korea. And then we can see the review of the constitution bylaws for existing national member federations. So the Law and Legislation Commission just reviewed America Samoa, Puerto Rico, and the North American Regional Federation just to make sure everything is there. If we jump ahead to the Membership Commission, you can see there are the potential new associations that the IPF has been talking to and hopefully getting them to come on board at some point. So you can take a look at all of these different nations that may be coming on in the upcoming years. As far as the Court of Justice is formerly the Ethics and Disciplinary Committee, we can take a look at any complaints that were sent. So here you can see Gaston Proj sent a complaint as far as him trying to run for president again, and it was withdrawn with mutual consent. There was a complaint here against the Greece Federation, and it seems like that there was an issue, and it seems like, again, the federation was downgraded to provisional until the compliant governance documents have been submitted and accepted. So there was some kind of issue there. It did not reach a satisfactory conclusion, and they're being downgraded until it's being resolved. There's a complaint against Puerto Rico as far as non-compliance and transparency, and the Federation acknowledged that they were deficient, and they are working on making those kind of changes. At the regional level, there's no issues. At the national level here, you can see there's a complaint from Russia, looks like against Ukraine, and you can go read this if you want to, and the decision that was made. Next, we can jump down to this Anti-Doping Commission and quickly look at the 2025 testing. So a total of 588 unique athletes from 69 different nations were tested. A total of 960 966 samples were collected. And the reason why that's more is that maybe an athlete's tested more than once, and also maybe they're tested in different ways. So if they're tested in urine and blood, it's one unique athlete, but then it's 2 samples. And then you can take a look at the breakdown of the total test by region. So here you can see, for example, Europe is at 410, North America is at 138, and then all the failures by nation as well. So North America doesn't have any failures. And this is just like the IPF testing. A national federation can also do their own testing on top of this, and that national federation testing is not shown here. This is just the IPF testing that's shown here. Next, you can take a look at the media team report if you want to, talking about Eurosport, talking about CBS Sports, talking about social media, and that the growth of Instagram has slowed compared to previous years. The count currently stands at 228,000 followers, 6.4% increase year on year. And then you can see the Instagram views generated during championships, for example, the Junior Worlds and Costa Rica last year. Next is going to be the regional federation reports. We're going to skip that because that's going to be so much stuff and it's very specific to the region. So you can go and read your specific region's report if you want to, or go read all of them if you want to. We'll just jump down quickly here to the very bottom. And so for the very bottom, for elections, they're going to be conducted next year. So at the 2027 General Assembly in Brazil is when they're going to have elections done. And then again, here you can see the countries trying to become provisional members, the countries trying to become full members, the countries with pending applications, actions on delinquent nations due to indebtedness, and then nothing else. You can take a look at the schedule on the website there. So next, what we're going to do is jump over to the amendments. So we're going to first look at the Constitution amendments. This one's pretty short. And so here you can just, if you want to, go look at the proposals. This doesn't mean that these changes are happening. These are being proposed at the General Assembly. They need to be discussed at the General Assembly. They may be amended, the wording slightly, and then they're going to be voted on. So they may pass and they may not pass. And you can see who submitted it, what amendment it is, and then what the change is going to be and the reason for it. So here you can see this amendment, for example, is to give the certain powers that were part of the executive committee that were given to the General Assembly back to the executive committee. And then you can read the reasoning for why they want to do that. And so you can take a look at those constitutional amendments there. The only thing here, not just worth noting, but we'll go over it later in this video, is that they're trying to move the IPF Constitution Article 15, used to be Article 14, as far as participation in non-compliant events, is they're trying to move it from the Constitution to the bylaws. So here you're going to see that it looks like it's deleting the rule, but it's only relocating it to the bylaws without any changes. And the reason for this is just to have it in the proper section as far as governance. Don't look at this and be like, oh, you know, the rule is gone. We're going to go over the bylaws next, and we'll go over the proposal there. And then you can see nothing else here as far as the Constitution. For the bylaws, there's a lot of changes here in the bylaws. It's like 75 pages. So again, we're not going to go through everything. It's going to take way too long. Just giving you an idea of where to find things, and then things you may be interested in going and looking into more in depth. So here for the bylaws, you'll see there's going to be a lot of little small changes here as far as, for example, the allowance for the president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, everything going up to 2,000 euros. So we can skip all of that. There's going to be some other small changes as far as, you know, appointing people for certain championships, what information they're collecting from various athletes. And then we'll jump down further here as far as the commissions. Just different small things as far as the commissions. So here, for example, as far as the athletes commission, just clarifying what they're supposed to be doing and what they shouldn't be doing, what their eligibility is to be on the commission. And so you can go through all this if you want to see the requirements and be a part of it if you want to. Same thing here for the rules group, going over the new process because there was complaints. And so now they have this more structured amendment process where you can fill out this amendment form, and then the rules group will go and review everything that has been submitted. There's going to be a proposal for a master's commission. So here is a new bylaw to create a master's commission, and this goes over all the eligibility and stuff like that. Here, as far as gender equality and representation, going over just, again, other changes that may be coming and trying to set minimum benchmarks for representation. Here, as far as the Court of Justice, for submitting a complaint, it used to be 1,000 euros to get your complaint brought before the Court of Justice. they're dropping it now down to 500 euros because that led to less people being able to submit a complaint because they can't afford it. So certain countries, 1,000 euros may not be as much, and in other countries, 1,000 euros may be a lot. So it kind of favored countries that can afford that and obviously hindered people or countries that couldn't afford that. So cutting it down in half from 1,000 to 500 makes it a little bit easier as far as the financial barrier to submit a complaint. Here's just some additional information about the Anti-Doping Commission. This is going to be a lot of information about national federations as well and submitting to become a national federation, everything that needs to be submitted as far as bylaws and constitution and compliance, everything like that. So it's a lot of information here. We don't need to go through all of it. This next proposal is just permitted expenses for officers, what they're allowed to expense, what they're not allowed to expense. Here's the membership fees. So here's some changes. For example, the national affiliation fees going up from 400 to 500 euros. For athletes, the event participation fees going up from 60 to 100 euros. And you can go through and see the different fees and fines. A lot of these are increases just due to inflation, higher costs, bigger things they're trying to do at World Championships, and so they need more money to come in. As we saw with the expenses and with the budget, how the IPF is losing money each year, so this may help bring in some additional revenue. Here we have a proposal as far as the Hall of Fame, just some small stuff here as far as eligibility and everything like that. Here's a bylaw as far as invitations and accommodation. The main thing being to try and get the invitations out earlier, so trying to get it 6 months out, and also as far as like being able to accept cash or card, like different methods like that to basically modernize the requirements here for accommodation, everything like that. So it's easier for everyone, depending on what country they're coming from and what country they have to go to, how they're going to pay, what system they're going to use, or just using cash. This is an interesting proposal as well as far as nomination of athletes and coaches, is changing the final nominations from 21 days out to 30 days out. So I like that to basically give more time for everyone to prepare, because it's harder and harder to run these championships. And also everyone wants to know in advance what's the schedule going to be like for athletes, coaches, referees, what's the information going to be as far as who is competing on the team and not. So who needs to get flights, hotels, everything like that. So by moving it from 21 days to 30 days gives everyone some more time. And everyone should know by 30 days out, what weight class they're going to be competing in, whether they're going to be competing or not, all that information. This next bylaw is just for coaches as well, as far as, and referees, how many referees need to be there. And then also there's going to be another one as far as how many coaches are allowed based on the championship. And so all that just helps make it easier as far as how many coaches you can send and all the nominations, everything like that. And then this one also is a proposal when it comes to the nominations and the nominated totals, and also rules as far as the certifications coaches need. So the smaller details there as far as nominations of athletes, coaches, and referees. For example, here's another one under the same section of trying to increase the maximum number of coaches when it comes to, for example, bench press championships. It used to be a maximum of 20. They want to bump it up to 24, and this would start in 2027, just because there are a lot of coaches for championships like the bench press championships. And so increasing it from 20 to 24 gives access for a nation to be able to submit more coaches to cover a large team. This is an interesting proposal as well, to submit the results from the annual national championship for each IPF nation, so that it's submitted to the IPF scoring system, and that way they can confirm the qualifying totals. And sometimes some nations or some athletes maybe submit fake nominations to be able to be higher on the nominations and get into the primetime sessions or in a better flight. And so this way, every nation has to submit their national results, and then those national results and international results can be used to check the qualifying total for each of the athletes. So here you can see, starting in 2027, the proposal is to make that be a mandatory thing from every nation. Here's another interesting one when it comes to athlete qualification and nomination, is basically just to make everything more transparent. So having basically written policies of how an athlete can make a national team, and basically having everything be transparent, be on the website in a timely manner, and everything obviously being done according to what then is in the policy, so that there's no bias towards certain athletes or against certain athletes, or holding certain athletes back from competing for whatever reason. So everything needs to be written, public, transparent, everything like that. So there have been some issues with some athletes that want to maybe get nominated for certain championships and the federation doesn't nominate them for whatever reason. And this one goes along with as well is athletes self-funding. So if the member nation says, well, we can't pay for that person's travel or we can't pay if that person fails a drug test, is that having the ability for the athlete to fund everything themselves. So some additional stuff there as far as trying to make things better for the athletes, making it more transparent and making it where they can just fund themselves. And then here is the proposal to actually change the Article 15 from the Constitution. One change is to relocate in the bylaws, but then another change here is to change the wording of it. So here you can see the previous wording, and then here you can see the new wording and the reasoning to try to make it more clear, trying to make it shorter, trying to define things better, because everyone's kind of confused as far as what they mean by non-approved events. Do they mean just powerlifting? Do they mean other sports? All that kind of stuff. So they try and clear it up here. The only thing I still am not 100% certain of, and we'll hopefully get more information about, is they've broken it up into 2 points. So here you can see point 1, if you compete or participate in an international powerlifting or international bench press event not organized by the IPF, then that's going to make you ineligible. Then point 2 is if you compete or participate in a national level event not subject to WADA anti-doping. So does that mean national level event is any event run by a national, does not affect then the state level? Like if someone goes and coaches and competes in a state level championship or a local level championship or a provincial championship in another federation, then this rule may not cover that. So then that allows freedom for people to go be involved at the local level and still be able to then be involved in IPF. So I don't know if exactly that's what it means, but the wording kind of seems like that because this is talking about international level and this is talking about national level, but it's not talking about local level. And then it basically says they shall not be eligible to take part in international, regional, invitational, or powerlifting or bench press championship listed on the calendar. So then here's another change is that it says you won't be eligible for anything that's basically listed on the IPF calendar. So like North American Championships, World Championships, Sheffield, those kind of things, but you would still be able to compete in your federation's like national level championship, whereas previously they enforced the rule down to, for example, like powerlifting American National Championship, you wouldn't be able to coach or referee or compete. So this would then allow you to, even if you're ineligible for like an IPF World Championship, still be involved in like a powerlifting American National Championship. So that's the way I'm reading it. We'll see if this passes and if this passes as written or if there's any changes. And then if it does pass as written, if we get any just final clarity on what they mean, this national level just mean it has to be like a national championship and local level competitions are okay. So that would maybe make a small to this rule, and you can go read all the reasoning and see what you think for yourself when it comes to this proposal. So you can see everything in here. Another bylaw potential change here for nominations is just getting a lot more information and structure when it comes to subjunior athletes and safeguarding the subjunior athletes. So you can go read all this information as far as this accommodation policy, this acknowledgement form if you want to, and who subjunior athletes are not allowed to share accommodations with, who they are allowed to share accommodations with, all that kind of stuff like that, just so they can make things safer for subjuniors and obviously protect themselves as well. Here as well, you can see a proposal from the New Zealand Powerlifting Federation regarding invitations and accommodation. Basically, the rule that everyone has to stay at the IPF official hotel, and they're talking about how that negatively affects, for example, countries that have to travel farther, like countries that are from the Oceania region, and also how it may affect worse like referees, because referees may have to referee multiple days, and it negatively affects coaches because coaches may have to coach multiple days or an entire week, so they have to be staying at the meet hotel much longer, whereas an athlete only competes on one day. So maybe they come in 1 or 2 days early and then they leave the next day and they're only paying for 2, 3, 4 nights. Whereas a referee or a coach, you may have to pay 6, 7, 8 nights at the hotel. And so it has more of an impact on people from regions that have to travel farther, from coaches and referees versus athletes. So it breaks all that down. You can go and read that. You can kind of look at all the information as far as looking at previous world championships and the distance based on the region, and also the cost of the rate that the IPF is giving versus like the hotel website itself or a site like booking.com to see how the prices vary and how some meet directors may be charging more to get a profit for themselves, which then hurts again the athletes, the coaches, the referees. And then these final amendments here, you can see this one's from Slovenia. It's just different little things as far as cleaning up the technical rules, cleaning up things like the bylaws. So again, you can go through and look at all that as far as submissions of proposals. Here, you can continue to look at all these finer things, and then we are at the end. So that is everything as far as a quick review of the IPF General Assembly, the agenda, the constitution, and bylaw changes. Let me know your thoughts down below, what you think about some of these proposals that are coming out, some of these ideas from the IPF, what you think about the new Article 15 adjustment. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Anything you want me to go over more in depth, any questions you have, let me know down in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.